Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Woohoo!
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We're so excited for your talk. So we did a pre-introduction and just kind of mentioned that you are our vice chair on the board of directors, and also you own your own company and you do appraisals as well as art sales and help collectors.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what to expect in the presentation.
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is, well, of course, introduce myself. I'm a huge fan of the Downtown Arts District. I think the whole city knows how much I love the Downtown Arts District. So I just feel like I'm in a board meeting right now, which is great.
I think actually our board is watching virtually.
Guys, so a little bit about me is the reason I'm in art, and my mom and dad are artists. They're fine art sculptors. They met in sculpting school when they were in their early 20s and have continued to grow art businesses all over the country, and now are solely focusing on their art careers independently, which I'm super, super proud of them for. So growing up in an artist home, I've seen the struggles that artists have had throughout my entire life. I've seen them make some phenomenal strides as artists and accomplish things that I didn't know anyone could ever accomplish. And I also have seen people screw them over or make mistakes. And I have made plenty of mistakes in the art world. So today I really wanted to touch on my personal views, do's and don'ts. Like I said, these are my views. This has not, I'm not saying that these are rules to live by, but growing up in the art industry and seeing a lot, like I said, I've made plenty of mistakes. I've had people make mistakes towards me when I run galleries, and I'm sure you guys, I'd love to hear some of your 2 cents on some big no's that have happened. Barbara?
I said they might be some of the same mistakes.
Oh, I'm sure, yes. And that's I definitely want you guys to kind of chime in, because this is a learning lesson. The biggest question that I've ever gotten, especially I've a little bit about my background besides doing fine art appraisals is what I do now. I was in the corporate industry running corporate galleries for the past 5 years. Before that, I was running private collections, learning how to appraise collections between 200 and 300 pieces, abstract geometric pieces from 1950 to 1980. I loved that job so much, and just learn everything I've ever done has been surrounded by the arts. So especially in the corporate galleries, having people come in and present their work, and the biggest question I get is, how do I get in the art industry? And I want people to take this as, this is not just for young artists. This is for artists that are in their 50s that want to start. This is for anyone, you know, just everything I'm saying can be altered, and I'm happy to answer any questions privately or publicly if you have them today about kind of what I'm going to go over.
Okay, so a lot of this is going to be geared towards artists, and obviously you have a real big heart for the artists, and not all artists are taught the business per se of how to do things in a certain way or how to succeed, and that's what you've spent a lot of your career doing. I think if you could also sprinkle at the end some tips for the collector, you know. Absolutely. So you know, how do collectors get started? What's a good way to kind of start? How do you follow an emerging artist, and you know, do you invest as an investment or to decorate your home or business because you love the work?
Okay, awesome. I'd love to talk about that. Absolutely.
Okay. So we're going to give you the sharing ability, and then you can take it away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just made you co-host, so it'll take just a few seconds.
Let's see what I got over in here.
What do you have behind you? Who did that art?
Oh, that's Mr. Guerriere, one of my favorite local artists.
Lovely.
Of course. Let's see. Open. It's making me accept all the preferences here. So the fundraiser, how's it going today? Going well?
Going very well.
Yes, thanks for asking. Now we're at $986. So anyone that wants to donate, we're asking that they text DAD to 71777. And we're giving out prizes to, we've picked out some random numbers. So randomly we'll select the 20th donor will get a t-shirt and a drink for the next third Thursday. And we're also doing these lovely one-of-a-kind images that our intern Ryan did. So
Very
they're
nice.
all originals. He made 100
Oh,
of
wow.
this event, and he's getting his MFA from UCF right now. So we're excited to have him as part of this event, this 24-hour event. And we're hoping that every 2 hours we can raise a minimum of $200 to get to our $5,000 goal.
Absolutely. I definitely think that's doable for everyone. So what's the number that people have to text?
They have to text DAD to 71777, and it's in the Facebook chat as a pinned post. But I can also directly message people if they have any questions.
And as you go through your presentation, we'll be taking questions on Facebook, and at the end of the presentation, Connie will let you know what the questions are, and we'll have a little Q&A.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get this show on the road. Hey, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes, it looks great.
Cool.
Awesome. I try to use one of my new favorite colors right now. Okay, so like I said, and I want to preference this once again, this is just my personal opinion. There's going to be there's so many professionals in the art community, and especially here locally, there's a lot of people that I admire in the community that have different views than me that I have learned from. So again, this is just my personal perspective. The biggest thing I would have to say is it's your art, it's your profession, it's your passion, it's your future. So you need to take that into consideration with every step you make in your art community. You absolutely have to take that into consideration. You want to ask for help. That's the most important thing. I think, and the biggest part of where I've gotten in my career is asking for help. No matter if it's from friends, it's from family in school. I particularly am a huge fan of internships. I believe that internships are the most important thing that you possibly could ever do within your art education. Learning is more important now than you probably would ever imagine it being later on in life. When I was in college, I had the opportunity I went right into internships. I decided that this is what I wanted to do. I started off in communications, and for some reason I kept getting dragged back into the art world. My first class in college was an art management course, and I knew right away that I had to change careers. I had to shift focus, and I had to find someone to help guide me to what I wanted to do. I didn't know what part of the art world I wanted to go into. I didn't know if I wanted to be an artist myself. I didn't know if I wanted to run a museum, run a gallery, do registrar, do art education. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I just asked for help. And asking for help, once I figured out that I wanted to be in the art, I was 18 and I went to Manello, which of course we all know Manello very well here in Orlando. And at that time, the curator there was Frank Holt, who was incredibly smart, and he just knew so much about the industry. I asked them for an internship, and at the time, Genevieve was there doing the art education portion, which she helped me a lot as well. So I was shadowing her in the art education, making different art tools and art classes for young children coming to the museum, which I loved. Don't get me wrong, but I knew that wasn't for me. I would always peer into Frank's office, and I would peer into the gallery when they were recurating things, and I knew that's where I wanted to be. So I sat him down one day and I asked him point blank, how do I get to where you're going to be? I knew what I wanted to do. I just needed somebody to kind of give me the right steps and tools. And like I said, he gave me a perspective of his life. He showed me from the beginning how he got to where he was, and then I modeled that to what made it work for me. He suggested going to Florida State. He suggested studying art history criticism, as well as doing a double major in art museum studies, which I did. And he told me the same thing. He goes, while you're interning here, before you go off to college, you should have an internship no matter where you go. It's free labor, it's free work. And that's the biggest thing for me was I taking the advice of doing the internship was the most important thing that I definitely could have ever asked for. here locally, CityArts is always looking for help. So I hope that they know that. I hope that they know that we're always constantly looking for people that help us with events, help us with anything that we have going on at the gallery, as well as Flying Horse, where I do help out as well. They are through UCF, they're a printmaking shop, but they have interns that come in and they do the printmaking for major artists all across the world, which is absolutely incredible. So I would suggest, if you're in school, if you're at UCF, talk to Theo lots. He's extremely talented, extremely knowledgeable, and can help guide you whether printmaking's not your thing. He can kind of help you or get you in touch with another professor that could get you involved in a certain part of the art community. I'm looking at museums, and just like I said, it's not just because you're a student that you should get an internship. You can intern anywhere. I mean, Boris over at Mills Gallery has so many people that come in and help him just to see the inner workings of the gallery, which I admire. I would love to have more people, assistants, just to see how the art business works. If you're an artist and you want to learn the business side, go ask if you can shadow a show, see if you could work with the artists, see how they add the artwork into the system, how they price artwork. That's so extremely important. And you want to make sure that you become established. You will learn a lot about your self-character and yourself by being on your own. Becoming self-sufficient, and I think when you work, it leads you to become self-sufficient, is the best thing you could ever ask for. So ask for help, get an internship, get a mentorship, never be afraid to ask. Ask every single question you have. Ask anytime you've ever had a question pop in your mind that you want an answer to, ask. There's no stupid questions. And I know people say that all the time. And really listen to their advice, but use that to help find your own path. So for example, if you want to be a painter, you want to be a sculptor, you want to throw pottery, you want to sell art, is there anyone in your community that's doing that? Is there anyone that's like, ask Kat at CityArts how does she pick artists for a show? You know, you want to pick the brain of the people that are getting paid for that. And always take that and mold it to whatever you're personally trying to do. I think finding someone established is the most important part. And like I said from the beginning of asking for help, when you have an internship, don't just have one. Like my first internship at Manila was for art education. I loved art education, don't get me wrong, but I found that wasn't for me. So then I moved on to installation. So I moved on to installing the artwork. I loved that part. And then I moved on into a curatorial. I had 5 internships in my college career, never was paid for one. And by the time I graduated from Florida State, I had curated the Tallahassee Memorial Hospital by myself. I curated the Hotel Duval by myself. And it was all because I built a relationship with the curator there that wanted to take things off of her plate, but also really wanted me to feel self-sufficient, that I could do this and I could go out into the art world. And it gave me the confidence. Within 3 days of graduating college, I had a paid art job. And I felt so confident in myself that from then on, I just kept going. And I really have to thank everyone that's ever helped me in my internship. So no matter what age you are, no matter what you're doing, it's super important to ask for help. And don't settle. Like I said, if it's the internship's not for you, there's plenty of places in the city looking for internships. I know Orlando Museum of Art constantly has ads on their website for interns, for marketing interns, for graphic designers. So definitely check that out. The next big thing is artist critiques. I think artist critiques are extremely healthy. I think that we're learning from artists that you particularly have admired in your community, or museum professionals that are in your community. I think learning from them directly is seeing your art from a different perspective. When I was in fine art school, and I'm sure there's plenty of artists out there, and I know Hani has been through this, like artists, when you're in school, you have to stand up in front of your entire class and discuss. They have to basically tear your painting apart, whether they like it, whether they don't like it. And I kind of put up this little meme on the side, this piece of art, because there's so many comments. Some people go really in depth. There's some people that are very harsh. I love that it says, leave your ego at the door, because it is a very vulnerable position to be in when you're in the arts and you're standing up, and it is a piece of yourself that you're putting out there for the world to see. But I think it's more important because there's a lot of times that you won't be able to see certain aspects of your work. You're going to overanalyze something. This is something that I'm opening up a gallery in the late spring of this year. I'll be definitely hosting art critiques with museum professionals, gallery professionals, and local artists, because it's something I truly believe in, that artists need to show their work in a more private environment and get feedback. So for example, you spend so much time working on the eyes in the portrait, you completely forgot, and you barely can notice that you didn't touch on the hands as much, and the eyes look so realistic that the hands don't. I think that it takes an outside perspective to see that. It's very possible to overlook a lot of areas, and your voice is your work. So when you're critiquing, again, just like when you're in internship, you want to hold on to yourself, but you also have to, like it says, leave your ego at the door and really learn from that. The next part would be take calculated risks. I think this is the biggest thing that I wanted to touch on within the art community, because it is scary. And I think a lot of us young professionals in the art community know it's not an easy road. But passion makes beautiful work. You want to take the risk on yourself. Make sure, of course, if you're have a family of some sort, you need to make sure that you and your family are financially taken care of. So having side hustles. I mean, all of us in the art community don't just have one job. If you have one job, you're very lucky. But I think we all have 3, 4, 5 jobs at a time, whether it's being a bartender and then moonlighting as an artist. I mean, there's so many wonderful artists out there that have so many different jobs just to support their passion. And I have to let you know that it does get easier, but if you don't take action and you don't take responsibility and you don't take the risk, it's never gonna work out. You're not gonna have anyone to blame. You're not gonna have anyone to fall back onto except for yourself. Be prepared mentally for this profession. I went around and I asked a couple of people that I really respect in the art community, and that is one feedback that I did get for this presentation was be prepared mentally. Theo at Flying Horse gave me that recommendation when I asked him today about this. Was it's a hustle. It's a complete hustle. And I have to go ahead and quote my friend Donna, if you're the artist, you need to be the artist. So no matter what you do, no matter if you're bartending or if you're cocktail waitressing or you're working in a bank, it doesn't matter. You're still going to be the artist. You're still going to put that in front of everything that you absolutely do. So I think it's important that you want to take that in perspective. I personally have to suggest, if any artist is going through a creative struggle right now, the biggest advice, I think this Stephen Pressfield, this book, War of Art, is absolutely incredible. I mean, he completely touches on the constant anxiety that creative people are under. I mean, we're always under constant anxiety when creating, when doing anything, because we're constantly pushing ourselves no matter what we're doing. Say we're at our normal 9-to-5 job, but we're constantly thinking about other creative things in the process. But we have to do those jobs to make our profession work. We're consistently always under the gun. We're always have self-doubt. But this book really kind of takes our brains as creative people and allows you to kind of turn your demons into your enemies, especially when it comes into your creative life. So I highly, highly suggest anyone that is feeling like they have anxiety, then read this book. But what it touches on the most is, if you want to be an artist, you got to be an artist. You have to, if you want to be a gallery director, go be a gallery director. If you want to go work in a gallery and you want to sell art, but your worst enemy is you. If you don't do it, nobody's going to hand, especially in most careers, nobody's going to hand it to you. But especially not in the art career, because there's so much competition. There's very minimal jobs and there's very minimal space for creative people. There's very minimal buyers that are out there. if you want to do this, you have to literally put in everything you have. It's a complete marathon. Oh, you just have to overcome your fears and just completely dive in and immerse yourself. And going back to, but you have to be responsible. You have to take care of your family. You have to take care of yourself. And when you do that, the risk and becomes the greatest reward you could ever possibly have. Be open. And I kind of feel like this ties all of the previous topics together. Would be open to change, be open to movement, be open to anything that is thrown your way. So many things that have happened in my life personally, and a lot of my friends' life who are successful artists, it has never, it's your idea of what you have in your head never pans out. It always is going to be something different. There's always going to be a constant change and shift, and it always seems to turn out for the better. You have to be open to that. You have to be open to accepting change within yourself. You know, there's so many things, and this ties into the art critiques when you're there, and somebody, you could have a certain statement that might mean something to you, but it is absolutely could be completely offensive to someone else. And I was in a meeting the other day, and they actually were telling me how they had to take this painting that this gentleman kept walking by. It was up for 2 months in this establishment, and he kept looking at it. He's like, God, I really like it. And then one day he went up and he actually read the words that the artist were put on the piece of art and paid attention to maybe more of their voice within it. And he had to ask them to take it down because it didn't in line with what the establishment thought about certain things. So while we of course want to do everything we possibly can to make our art solely ours and have our voice within the art and make sure that it is 100% genuine to us, it's important to also change in certain situations until you have all the money in the world, where you have a waiting list of people. You have to kind of, and there's no mold, so that you can't fit a mold, but you have to move, especially for commissions. You know, that's the one thing. If you want to paint, you want to do commissions, there's going to be people that are going to ask you to change certain things about your artwork. They're going to ask you to change colors. They're going to actually change perspectives. And until you're at the point when you have this money just flowing in, you do have to really work with them and be open to change. And that's my biggest point that I wanted to talk about there, was you just consistently have to accept that and just know and take it as a grain of salt, take it as a learning lesson for yourself. And say you did do a commission and you had to make a change, know that you're not going to do that again. Just know, okay, well, I know that I personally am not going to do that change again, and that's what I'm going to do. But you did it once and you've learned your lesson, and just grow from every opportunity that you've ever had. So the next part would be getting into the galleries. Like I said, I think that this would be both as a professional and as an artist. Artists, and you can kind of take each one as you'd like. So say you're an artist, this is more in lines. This is a lot of things that I've seen, and this is kind of where I would love Hani and Barbara and Kat especially to chime in. And a lot of the times running galleries, we have artists just show up. We have professionals just show up, and you don't go to somebody's office and just show up. You have to think that we're not just sitting around waiting for you to come in and talk to us. There's a lot of other inner workings that go on. And this is one part that I have given plenty of advice on to young artists and young professionals trying to get into the industry, which is the main reason why I want to do this presentation. So portfolio, I used Ashley Longshore's just because I liked her colors that kind of matched the presentation, but also her portfolio is really, really easy. It's concise. So her branding, no matter if you go from her Instagram to her Facebook to her personal live videos, she's created a complete brand for herself. And if you never saw her signature up in the corner, you could tell that this was her portfolio. Create do not rely on solely social media. Instagram is an incredible way for artists to sell their work. I think it's absolutely incredible. I know so many artists, especially in Orlando, when our gallery industry is small, that sell their artwork hand over fist on Instagram, and then they get into a gallery and they have struggle selling it within the gallery. It's so great to have an Instagram, but you do, if you want to become a professional artist or a professional of any sorts, you want to have a website of a portfolio of your work. Make sure that if you are in the art community, I'm sure you have friends within that are graphic designers that can help you out. If not, I'm sure Kat and Barbara can suggest anyone that could help you kind of create a nice consistent logo and brand for your company. Go through artists, find artists that you admire. You don't want to make it hard on someone to look at your work. And that's why I used Ashley's website for this. It's so stupid simple that if you can't figure out her website, then it's your fault. She makes it extremely easy for anyone to find her, to get commissions, to have her phone number, to look at whatever her limited editions, her charitable donations, her media kit, her sculptures, her furniture, her press. It's so upfront and easy. I would highly suggest you looking at it. And there are other artists too that I can send you portfolios that are just as great as this. Call and set up a meeting. Don't show up at the gallery. Please know that I would suggest, of course, calling the gallery, getting the contact of either the director or whoever's in charge of selecting artwork for the gallery. If you're looking to become a gallery consultant, call and speak to the gallery director, provide your portfolio or your resume, and send it in. Follow up, send a follow-up email, call a couple days later. And the biggest thing, call between Tuesday through Thursday between 2 and 4. I'm going to say that again, call between Tuesday and Thursday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday between 2 and 4. You have to take, when you're an artist, you have to think of, this is someone else's profession that's taking time out of my day to look at my things, to give me an opportunity. So if you're looking to have a chance to get into a specific gallery, please be respectful of that person's time, because if you are not respectful, then they will absolutely not even open your email. I've had people call me, and this is going to sound pretty crazy. It's even crazy coming out of my mouth right now. And while they call me and say, I'm an artist, I want to be in your gallery. And I'm like, okay, well, did you submit your portfolio? And I can provide you my email address. And they say, well, no, we're on the phone right now. So can you just pull up my website and look at my Instagram while we're on the phone? And it's like an automatic no. Like, please don't do that. Please make it easy for whoever the professional is that's looking at whatever you're sending them to do that. You want to make sure that you are doing the legwork for them. Make it easy, and then follow up. Again, follow up. If you're following up via email, you can email them normally during business hours of any day, but between 2 and 4, Thursday or Tuesday through Thursday are really good days. Mondays, museums and galleries are normally closed. Fridays, they have shows. Thursdays, they're normally installing. So you want to make sure that you do your research on these pieces. You want to make sure that you're once you get in front of the gallery director, you want to make sure that you're actually getting their attention. You want to make sure, and if you don't have the means to bring a few pieces, if they do invite you to bring pieces to the gallery, invite them for a studio visit. That's why I put this little super cute piece of cat art up here, because I've loved doing studio visits. It makes me understand art better. It makes me understand the artist better when I can see their process, when I can see what their studio looks like. And don't be embarrassed if your studio is in your house. I've been to so many people's homes. I've been to people's garages. I've been to people's sheds. I've been to people, anywhere people find a creative spot to create I've been there, I promise. And it's always makes me appreciate the artist and their artwork more is when I'm invited. Be persistent, but don't be annoying. That's my biggest thing. So kind of sticking to do your research. I think it's important for you to do your research on the gallery. So for example, for CityArts is a collaborative art studio. They have 5 different galleries within the space. I think it's super beneficial to do your research and to call and look at their shows. Kat, I'm sure, can say anything that about this. Is the beautiful thing about CityArts, especially when you're starting out, is you want to go and visit. And once you set up your time with Kat and you're showing her your artwork, she can immediately tell you, okay, this would be perfect for our Dias de los Muertos show. This would be perfect for our H2O show. You should actually contact Redefined. You know, there's so many suggestions that we as the Downtown Arts District have in our pockets to be able to provide for these young artists, especially at CityArts with having such a wide variety of gallery space. You want to go and visit. You want to make sure that when you're doing your research, it always disappointed me when someone called me and they said, I've never been to your gallery before, but I just want to get in there. It's like, well, how can I put my trust in you if you've never even seen my space? You've never even seen the artwork that I have here. What if I did solely nudes and you're calling me about abstracts and you just have no idea? You just really want to make sure that you do your research and stop by. And then when you're speaking to the director in that meeting, you can say, oh, I attended the H2O show. It was incredible. I liked this artist and I learned X, Y, and Z. And you can reference and really impress them on your education behind their institution. It's so complimentary because the directors and the curators and the educators and the development directors, they have so much going on, and for you to acknowledge their job, because they are behind the scenes. You know, the artists are the ones that we do. Our job is to represent artists, but it's few and far between when somebody actually can represent the work that we put on. And there's a lot of steps of putting on a show, which is definitely what we'll get into a little bit later. So I highly suggest that attending shows. That was one other thing that somebody suggested to me today, was making sure that you're attending the shows. Get involved. If you're old enough to be on a board, that was one of the best decisions I've ever done in my life. Just to give a shout out, we're always looking for board members for the Downtown Arts District. If you, we are a very diverse board. We're always looking for a lot of diversity, a lot of different culture backgrounds, professions. I mean, we have lawyers, doctors, DJs, art consultants, real estate agents. We have a little bit of everybody on our board, and we're always looking for more. If you go to the City of Orlando's website, it's awesome that you can actually go online and you can look for the different boards that are available. I'm so excited that I've been a part of the Board of Trustees for Manello for the last 3 years. I found that when I was 22, trying to get involved in the city and trying to learn more about the boards of City of Orlando and how I can be a part of the growing arts community here in Central Florida. So there's so many different avenues that you can take to getting involved, but doing your research and discussing that research with whoever you're looking to get in front of, basically. So the big thing, the big no-nos for the art, and I know I mentioned this one already, would be don't show up. Don't show up at a gallery, and don't haul in 30, 50-pound paintings and ask me to unload them out of your car and then ask to leave them at the gallery. That's just not how it works. There's an entire process of going through, which it starts with your portfolio and then studio visits, and then selecting the artwork, and then cataloging the artwork and photographing the artwork and making sure everything is done before you can't just go in and just leave things in the gallery. And that also says, when you do have a show at a gallery, don't leave your stuff there for months on end. I know, don't leave your things there. We don't have any room for your stuff, and we also don't have enough money to afford to pay for it if it gets damaged and it's not our fault. So please don't leave your stuff there. This is one big thing, and I hope everyone's, during a show, another artist show, especially if it's a solo exhibition, don't go up to the artist and don't go up to the director and start showing them photos of your artwork on your phone. Please don't do that. It's so insulting, especially for the artist that you're featuring and the time of the director, because the director is there to sell. There's only one job in our heads during major events like this, and that's to sell. And the major thing about the artist is to represent their product and their brand and their art. And while I'm sure, and I've been in the position, we would love to take a look at your work, please do not do that at a show. You're there specifically doing your research like we talked about, and looking at the artist's work, seeing how that artist got to where they are. Ask to set up a meeting with the artist. Say, I'm so impressed by this exhibition that you currently have. I want to have this someday. Can you tell me how you got here? They would love to talk about it. Just ask for their card. Also going to that, when you're at another artist show, don't go around and showing all the other clientele your artwork on your phone. You know, this is not, you want to be immersing yourself in that artist's exhibition. You don't want to make it about yourself. We all like to talk about all of our art. And if someone does ask, you could say, yeah, I'd be happy to, here's my Instagram page. I'll add you right now. Let them look on their own time. But of course, grab their contact information, send them an email, tell them how awesome it was meeting them at X, Y, and Z event, and then provide your professional portfolio. You definitely don't want to show people your phone. Regardless if you're stopping in a gallery, or, I mean, there's so many times when somebody's telling me that they're an artist and I'm in the middle of budget season, or I'm in the middle of my P&L report, and somebody's like, let me just take 5 minutes and show you all my whole Instagram. And I don't want to be rude, of course, but there's been times where I have had to be, and I've had to tell them how unprofessional that was, because you're stepping into my office. You want to make sure, you want to do your best to impress me, or impress whoever that they're coming in to get your artwork within that establishment, because ultimately it's going to be someone like me that's selling it, and you don't want to put a bad taste in their mouths right away. As I put a damaged piece on here, there's so many times people come in with damaged artwork, and then they expect that they're going to sell it for $2,000, but it's not going to happen. One, you can't put a damaged piece of art unless it's purposely damaged. You can't put a damaged piece of art up on the wall, and that includes the frame, that includes the glass, that includes any yellowing of the paper. Say it's a sketch and the paper is yellowed. You can't sell it unless you note that you discount the price. But normally any professional gallery wants every piece as in the best condition that you possibly can have. So that's kind of my big do's and don'ts. And like I said, be respectful. So I don't know if Hani has anything she wants to add that she's seen come into the gallery.
Oh my gosh, I've been like, obviously I've been muted this whole time because I wanted you to be taken away. If you want to stop sharing your screen, Flynn, so it's not just like
I think I have one more slide.
Okay, yeah, no problem. But yes, when you're done, I'm happy to chime in on I've been taking nonstop notes since you've been talking.
Good. I'm glad. I'm so excited to hear it too, because it's so important. Not, like I said, this is just from my perspective, and I really wanted to get Kat and Hani and Barbara involved in this conversation too, because they live it every day, and it's so important to hear other aspects. So the last thing that I'm going to say is invest in you. Whether it's buying frames, whether it's creating your branding, whether it's buying a website, getting your domain, getting professional clothing. I think it's important. You need to dress to impress. There's times where I've had consultants come in that I've initially hired. They've come to the interview, they look great, and their first day of work, they're wearing something that they would wear to a nightclub. And it is so heartbreaking, because you want to make sure that the way you're presenting yourself within that space, and the way you're presenting yourself professionally, especially with social media nowadays. If you're going into the art profession, you need to take a hard look at your personal life and what your social media looks like, what your political views are, and you need to make sure that it's pretty tamed. That's the biggest thing I can say, especially with artists. Unless advocacy is your brand and that's what you're going to go for, because a lot of people can make a lot of money doing that, and that's what they believe in, it's their passion. You want to be as respectful to yourself as you possibly can, and that's where the outside perspective comes in. If you don't take yourself seriously, no one's going to take you seriously whatsoever. So I'm here to help. I'm going to put my contact information up there. I'd love to, like I said, I'm super excited to hear what Hani and Barbara have to say. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. If you just need some advice on any certain situation, I'm here to help. And I know all the ladies at CityArts are here to help. I think that worked.
Yay, awesome. Yeah. So Thank you so much, Flynn. And Kat and I were just having a conversation about this. Kat was like, "Oh my God, I love Flynn so much," and like everything that she's been saying, because it is true. There are a lot of times that we have to deal with exactly a lot of. So I took notes. We all collaborated on taking these notes, but um, you before you even talked about it, one of my just biggest pet peeves is, we're always working in the gallery, and everyone knows that we're just like nonstop at City Arts. And but what my biggest pet peeve is, yes, when people arrive with no appointment and demand the attention of any of us, like of Barbara or of Kat or myself. And like, of course, we're super nice people. We want to chat, we want to meet you. It's like, our passion to meet artists, but like, you can't walk in and demand an hour of our time without setting that up ahead of time. And it happens probably every day to all of us when we're here. And, I can be in the middle of writing a grant, $150,000 grant. I'm so sorry. I have a deadline, right? Like, and I would have loved to meet with you yesterday or, or next week. And same with Barbara, right? There's always things, and same with Kat. So yes, I love that. And, my feedback on that is, a lot of times, and a lot of times people reach out to us on Instagram. That's probably our number one way of people like reaching out cold reaching out, which I welcome. Like, obviously, if they can't figure out exactly what our email addresses are, but I would urge people to not just say like, "Hey, how do I get in your gallery?" I would urge them in their direct message to be like, "Hey, I'm so and so artist. This is my Instagram handle. Who can I contact directly to learn about how I can get in the gallery?" Not just like, "Hey, how can I get in this gallery?" Like, make it a better introduction, and who can be that sole resource that I can email to present like more my portfolio or set up set up an appointment. I know a lot of these just sound a lot of these just sound like they're self-explanatory, but it's just a normal daily thing that we experience all the time.
Honey, where can they find the email address for CityArts if they do want to submit?
Where can they find the email? It's on our website of like who to contact. So like our info page, but we love when people reach out to us on social media. I just wish it was a little more like with more intention and more professional the way that people reach out. Just because it's social media doesn't mean you should be informal when you're contacting a business.
Somebody showed up with 10 paintings.
Yeah.
Left them there. Or asked to leave them there, and you're like, I want to help. I want to do this.
We have zero storage. Yep. Yeah. We have zero storage for you to do that. And yeah, that's actually one of a big challenge for us as well is we have, like I said at the beginning of this presentation, we hang 2,500 works of art in a year, right? At City Arts. So many people leave their art here after the show is over. And I'm so sorry, we can't keep 1,000 pieces of art at City Arts after the show is over. And and artists a lot of times come back like 6 months later and they're like, "Hey, I'm here to pick up my piece." And we're like, "Awesome. It's been here for 6 months. Give us a minute to go look for it in storage," right? Like, and then they get all frustrated when we can't find it. I'm like,
and you guys, as artists, you have to read the fine print in your contracts. Because
yes,
it does say between 14 days after your show is the pickup time. And I know City Arts is probably 1 week just because of your turnover rate.
Yeah.
No, most of the time, legally, if you look at the contracts, it says 14 days or the gallery technically owns it. I mean, so many galleries that I've worked in that artists have left, and of course, most of the time we've never kept the pieces, but there's been times where things were damaged, and you're like, well, it's been here for a year. We're not a storage facility. We're just not.
Right.
And unfortunately, you need to read the fine print, and that's what the gallery is holding you to. So please be professional. Please read your contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yes. And the showing photos during an art opening. you know, again, we would love to look at your art. We would love to, but like we're running a show right now and we're trying to sell art currently in the exhibit. Like, yeah, that's a huge thing. And then back to what you were talking about before, obviously like really resonates with me, right? You and I have similar education background. We're almost the exact same age, same situation. And yeah, I did the same thing, right? I volunteered to enter, or I actively seeked or, you know, researched and figured out internships that I could get in order to figure out where I wanted to be within the creative industry. I still talk about it till this day, but my first ever internship, almost the same time you had your internship at Manello, was at the Nevada Museum of Art, because I went to high school in Reno. And I worked there as an intern for a whole year. And what was cool about them is they let me they kind of shared me among all departments, because they really wanted me to figure out where I felt like I was loving this specific department. So I got to help with the curator, help with marketing. Honestly, my favorite department to work in, which is so funny at the time, was the preparator. I loved installing the exhibits, and Nevada Museum of Art is a art in the environment exhibit or a museum. So a lot of it is working with nature and plants and within contemporary art. So it was really cool to like kind of be that resource to a lot of land artists. And environmental artists. So I loved it. And obviously I didn't end up wanting to do that, but that was my favorite as a 19-year-old. But it also helped me with the exact opposite, right, of you. I didn't want to be a curator. I knew that my kind of gift to this world was the other departments within the art world. So the marketing, the fundraising, the, you know, public programming concept. And so that's how it worked for me. But I wouldn't have known all of those things if I didn't just ask to be an intern. Like I truly was like, hey, do you guys need interns? Like I'm into it. I want to do this.
I didn't take no for an answer. I just was like, I'm going to show
Yeah,
up.
like I'm here. I got hours. Like I have the time. Like I had a job, but like still I was willing to like put the time into it. And it paid off, because by the time I was ready to get a full-time job, I had already volunteered my time at like 5 different institutions. I'd worked at different departments, and like, sure, it's rough being able to work for free, right, all the time. And that's not in the capacity of everyone. But if it's in your ability, by all means do it. But we do have some questions from the audience that I would love to, because we have about 10 minutes left. Oh, it's an appraisal question, which is so cool because we haven't even gotten to that part yet. So if someone has artwork in their home that they inherited from a relative, how can they find out what it's worth?
Call me. That's the best thing.
Call you. Yeah, obviously that's so perfect. But like, so what do you look at, Flynn, when you are doing that?
I get this question almost on a couple times a day. I have random phone numbers call me about things that they've picked up at an estate sale, things that they've had, the family heirlooms. The biggest thing that I can say is find someone that, like me, who's educated in art appraising or valuations, that can assist with that. I have a whole slew of database that I pay for, that I can search auction records, I can search professional signatures. My biggest accomplishment that I've ever had was one of my old bosses bought a piece for $300 at an auction years ago in the like early 1990s. It was this huge abstract piece. The signature was totally different, but I figured out and I praised it for 15,000. You know, there's so many hidden gems in this world, and it's just being able to find someone like me that can do that. So yes, please look out. Look, if you want to do it on your own, look for the signature. Try to, if you can't read the signature, send it to someone like me that may be able to can decipher it a little bit easier. But most of the time, if you just Google the signature and search paintings, You can look on eBay, you can look on art brokerage, you can just search online and you might be able to find a lot of information. It's kind of like a treasure hunt.
That's awesome. And I understand it took you, you went through like a whole like certification process and all of that to like, you can't just like announce I'm an appraiser, right? Like you have to earn that, and a lot of education goes into it.
So most of the time you could take a course. I took mine through ISA, the International Appraiser Society, which is an awesome company. I took a whole appraisal course. It took me about 2 years. And I did my USPAP course, which is uniform styles for basically that even real estate agents have to have a USPAP just to make sure you're within the uniform standards for professional appraising. It's an awesome industry. It's a very niche industry. It takes a lot of time, but I love it. So I definitely agree. It helps with collecting. And I know that was Barbara's question. So I have a couple minutes on that too.
Yeah. And a lot of collectors have large bodies of works that they never catalog, or they don't actually have a system in place.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend for those folks?
So right now I do that as well. So I do things, I can either do two things. One, evaluation, which is basically cataloging all your artwork, creating an entire value for your insurance company rather than itemizing every single artwork, because in an appraisal, say you have 3 paintings, that appraisal is a legal binding document that's probably 25 pages long. You have a lot of comparables. You have to compare them to the primary and the secondary markets. When you're just trying to catalog one specific collection as a whole, right now, for example, I did like what I said is called the valuation, where I basically took all the pieces, created individuals, got the prices from whatever their current market, their fair market value is, and then gave a bulk price for the artist's collection or the client's collection. And then I personally bind that as well. And that comes in, I give them a digital copy as well as a beautiful fabric box that they can use as like a coffee table book. And we can continuously add more pieces in there if needed.
That's awesome. So sometimes we get requests for, oh, I have this painting, I have no idea. I don't know if Hani already mentioned that.
I truly just asked that right before. It was from the Facebook chat, but that's okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm definitely happy to help with that. And most of the time, if it's something that's not worth it, if it's something I can Google really quickly, I'll just say, hey, this is worth $50. You know, yeah. I don't charge for anything like that, just because if it's something that doesn't need insurance, or if you're not looking to sell it, then I'm happy to help you with that stuff.
But if somebody's wanting to resell it, you know, so it's not just for their own collection, that's a little different. And sometimes it may be someone that you can't find any history on. You know, it's an artist that maybe didn't have like a long history. What do you recommend in those cases? And then how do you work with auction houses?
So for the example of the artist, say I just was at a client's house last month, and she had her dad traveled all over the United States, and he would pick up these awesome pieces when he was in the Army, but they had no ties, they had no provenance, there was nothing that could tie them together. There was, out of the 21 artists, I maybe found 8, and they had some significant value, maybe over $400. So I went to her and I said, anything over what my hourly rate was, I'll just give you the price of without having to worry about it. Anything $200 above my hourly rate, then we'll work on evaluation. So when we came up with a contract that would work for her specifically, because these artists didn't have, but say you have a stunning original oil painting that's a still life, just because it doesn't have an artist's name doesn't mean it's not worth something. You know, if you're going anywhere, if you're going to Home Goods, you're going the places, don't buy art at Home Goods, please, dear God, don't buy art at Home Goods, but
buy original.
Exactly, buy original. But say you're on invaluable.com or all these other auction sites that you can, you know, live auctioneer, an oil painting of that size would go for $200, $300, just because it's the time, it's the technique, it's just the market for itself.
So there's a base depending on the size and the medium and maybe the subject matter.
Exactly.
I don't know if you talked about provenance, but a lot of people who are collectors or who just buy art because they like it may not know what that is or what to look for in terms of that.
So provenance is basically where something comes from, is the easiest way for me to put that in. is, so for example, this piece behind me, I know the provenance because I know Peterson painted it during his 48 hour crazy event that he did. And the
Crazy,
documentation.
24 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's staying up. So that's the wonderful thing about that. You know, buying local is awesome. You know, buying local is what I do. My whole house is full of local artists, you know, and those local artists will get bigger. Those local artists are going to grow, and they're going to be picked up by galleries and buying their pieces. You know, I'm so fortunate. I would never tell it. You know, I bought this piece from Peterson 5 years ago, and what it's selling for now, it's like it's crazy, you know, and that's just his retail market. And that's because, and you and Hani and Kat and myself and Patrick and Holly at Snap, we're able to, well, I know they deal with a lot of international artists as well. They still have their hands with a lot of local artists that are good up and coming artists you can get for, you know, a couple hundred, couple grand, you know, if you're looking to spend. And art doesn't go down in value. There's not one piece of art that I ever bought or that I've ever appraised did I value it for less than what they bought it for, because the art market is consistent.
So you know what the provenance is, but do you actually have that documented? And I know you're
personally.
Yeah, so some artists actually do that as part of their practice, best practices. So they have on the back of the pieces like a little document that's authenticating, you know, the date, the time, the medium,
like
and all.
Certificate of authenticity.
Right.
I would suggest anyone that's buying anything get a certificate of authenticity. For example, today I had a phone conversation with someone that bought an original Andy Warhol but has no documentation of it. So now we're backtracking and having to look for that documentation.
And no receipt. I mean, because the receipt would serve as if they had it.
So no matter what you have, keep that documentation. Or a good friend of mine, he always, no matter what, he always took a picture with the artist. So for some reason, if the paperwork that he did have, he was very anal about making sure the paperwork was all together. He always took a picture with the painting, with the artist, just for further documentation that it's his.
Yeah, that's great. That's good advice.
Yeah, well, good. I'm happy to be unsure. I think we have like 1 minute left, but donate. The Downtown District needs your support. If you want to be a board member, like I already talked about, talk to Barbara. Very exciting. And thank you for letting me do this. It's been such an honor.
You did a great job, and it's wonderful. And we want to continue doing more educational programming, you know, for the artists as well as, you know, potential collectors. So thank you, Flynn.
Thanks, guys.